Well, I've clicked the record button, so we are now live. We've got about 30 people in the attendee section, and I expect that number to grow a little bit. But like I said, we will be recording this and posting it online in the next day or two. So if folks didn't get a chance to log in today, we will still have that option available to them. To the attendees, just a quick how-to in terms of what we're doing today. There's a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Go ahead and fire any questions you have into that box. If somebody asks a question that you would have asked, you can hit the like button or the thumbs up button, and that will rank that question higher up the list. And we will just play it by ear in terms of whether it's answered by Jess or myself or Michael or Corey. But if you have any other questions around that, feel free to pop a note in the chat box as well. Those are kind of the two best ways to ask questions or make any comments. And we will, between Jess and I, will scour those boxes and make sure we cover everybody's questions and thoughts today. So with that, welcome. On behalf of Jess Fairhart and myself, I'm Pete Bourke. I'm the Executive Director for the Columbia Valley Chamber of Commerce. I'll let Jess do her own intro, but we are thrilled to welcome Michael and Corey. And Michael, I'll just introduce quickly, and then Jess will introduce Corey. But Michael is from the Export Navigator, which is a business development support program. It's available free of charge to rural BC businesses, small and medium-sized companies, financed by the province of BC and the government of Canada. It pairs the leadership of Kootenay boundary companies with an experienced regional export advisor. Michael works out of the Nelson office, I believe, and has been in the role for quite some time, and we're really thankful for having him on today. And Jess, I might throw over to you to say a few words about Corey and his program.
For sure. Thanks, everyone. Hi, I'm Jessica Fairhart, and I'm the Executive Director with Tourism Radium and Radium Chamber of Commerce. I'm really excited to be able to introduce Corey Kanzig today with the Basin Business Advisor Program. If you're a business looking for assistance in getting through these tough times, the Basin Business Advisor Program offers confidential one-to-one counseling and assessment services free of charge. This program will provide timely, reliable, and relevant business information on COVID-19. And business advisors are available to provide information and advice on mitigating the impacts of COVID-19, as well as how to act on opportunities. I'm a big fan of the program, so I'm excited to have Corey here. If you've met me in a co-working space or chatted business about your business with me, there's a good chance that I've told you to check in with the Basin Business Advisor Program. So with that, I will turn it over to Corey.
Thanks, Pete and Jessica. Appreciate it. And good morning to everybody out there in Zoom land. Bear with me for a second. I'm going to jump right into it. I put a few slides together, sort of guide my discussion and my spiel for the day here. So bear with me while I navigate this screen share.
Perfect, Corey, you're good to go.
Okay, so the Basin Business Advisor Program, as Jessica stated, we are a program funded by Columbia Basin Trust and administered and managed through the Community Futures in Nelson. We've got advisors in each region in the basin. I am the Eastern Basin Advisor, so I cover Columbia Valley, the Elk Valley, Cranbrook, Kimberley, and anywhere in between, and occasionally Creston as well. Our program has changed slightly since the COVID-19 pandemic. We have, okay, there we are. So we've opened up and we've waived our eligibility criteria. If you are a basin-based business, regardless of how big or small you are, you can access the program right now, free of charge, to work with an advisor to identify ways in which we can get your business through these tough times and possibly maybe even come out on top, depending on what industry and business you're in. If you can take away anything from my presentation today, it's everybody's business situation is unique, and information provided today will be somewhat general. But if I could leave you with anything, it's that take some time to set up a one-on-one call with me or another advisor. We could talk about the specifics to your business needs and look at what sort of resources we can pull in to assist you We've been working closely with a variety of different business support programs. One of them is the Rev Up program. Michael's actually a part of that as well. We have access to some of their executives and residents. So we've got a number of different resources that we can pull in to assist you based on your specific needs through this. I'm going to just go over some of the things as a business you might want to be doing in these times, and then I'll review the various programs at a very high level and open it up to Q&A after that. So there's a lot of different federal programs out there, but if I could leave you with one other thing is that you as a business owner need to be proactive in these times. Waiting for government to come in and write a check for people. It's great that those programs exist, but you need to be proactive in mitigating your own risks and identifying opportunities. So if you haven't done so already, a few things that we should be doing in the next little while here. Adjusting, looking at your cash flow, looking at your finances. What can you do to cut some costs? What can you do to keep some revenue coming in? How are you adjusting your operations? What is mandatory, what isn't? If you have staff, have you laid them off already? What's their specific situation? Of course, everybody with staff now, daycare's closed. A number of different factors coming in, schools closed. How does that impact staff, and how are you being flexible in sort of meeting their needs as well? Again, very general. For most businesses, however, this is not business as usual. And my personal feeling is it's not going to be business as usual anytime soon. So we're coming into what's going to be a new norm in some respects for most businesses. And so each business has a unique set of circumstances. And again, strongly urge you to just reach out. We'll plan for a quick call to discuss your needs and go from there. So what programs are out there? I'm sure many of you are aware, and if this is a bit redundant to you, I apologize. However, this information is changing what seems to be daily right now. So we're doing our best to stay on top of it, and sort of trying to read through the lines of the vagueness of some of these programs at the moment. But here it is. So there was a wage subsidy of 10%, 10 months, or a 10% wage subsidy for 3 months rolled out. That one is less known, or I think less highlighted than the 75% wage subsidy. This one allows you to write off some of the costs of your staff. You can work that concurrently with the 75% gross pay wage subsidy, and this is the one that most people are probably aware of right now. Just came out last night, just for those who might have been operating under the assumption that if you were, let's say, you owned an incorporated business and you were paying yourself a salary as a staff member. Up until last night, even the CFIB, the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses, was stating that you could use your salary through subsidy. However, the feds came out last night and said that is not the case. So if you're a shareholder or immediate family member of a shareholder and employed by that business, you will not be considered for the wage subsidy. I'm going to have to go back and revisit the presentation I gave yesterday because that information is now wrong. And that's just an indication of how things are moving quickly here with some of this stuff. This is a great program. One thing I would urge businesses out there right now is you need to cash flow the salaries for this. So you need to be able to have money in the bank to pay your salaries. This is a reimbursement of costs. So for some businesses, could be a stumbling block or could be a challenge that we need to sort of get through, right? You need to have cash on hand to pay these salaries. You'll be reimbursed later. A variety of different loan programs out there. These are the Fed ones right here. We've got the Business Credit Availability Program, which is being administered through EDC and BDC. If you have a regular commercial banking account, you can inquire about this one. This is, I believe it's 80% government-backed loan. Then you've got the CEBA, the Canada Emergency Business Account. So this is the $40,000 line of credit and or loan. And it's a line of credit or loan depending on what financial institute you're using. each financial institute is taking a different approach to this. So I would encourage you to talk to the one you deal with and see how it is that they're doling this out. The nice part about this is 10% of this is, or sorry, 25% of this is forgivable. So, you know, in theory, one could take the $40,000 loan out, utilize it for some of their operating expenses, pay that back, pay the $30,000 back, and then in some respects, you get a free $10,000. Now, there's no such thing as a free lunch. There are some parameters around that, but in general, you know, this is one that seems to have a lot of uptake. Programs that we don't know a whole lot about right now is the Feds announced the Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance. From what I understand, they're working closely with provincial and territorial jurisdictions to roll that out. Rent is a provincial jurisdiction, so I'm sure there's lots of negotiations happening there. But this is something to keep an eye on if, you know, you are a business that makes lease payments monthly and has had to shut operations. And then there's a variety of different supports through these links here. I will share this presentation with Pete and Jessica as well, so they can email it to everybody. And I'm not sure if the hyperlinks work through Zoom or not. Again, depending on what sector and industry you're in, there's a variety of different programs out there. Provincial support initiatives, as many of you are aware, there's a lot of deadline extensions for your tax, your PST, municipal regional district tax, the hold on the 2020 changes to PST, carbon tax hold, the reduced tax rate for business, school tax rate for businesses, and for those who aren't aware, both BC Hydro and Fortis have programs for bill deferrals as well. Some more regionalized supports. The Columbia Basin Trust has issued a small business working capital loan program. Some of the parameters around that, you need to be 2 years in operation, revenue between 150K to 1.5 million, and you should not have applied for federal or provincial loans yet. Again, I would recommend, you know, go on the Columbia Basin Trust website, read more about that program. Obviously, the Basin Business Advisor Program, I'm here talking to you right now. The Basin Rev-Up Program, that's available to everybody, and my understanding is the Rev-Up Program has waived their fees currently right now as well. So a lot of initiatives here, support for businesses free of charge. And then the Community Futures East Kootenays has a payment relief program. If you're an existing client with them, I would urge you to contact them and see about your options. And in addition to that, they also have an emergency loan. Oh, it looks like I did a double up slide, and that's what I get for doing a presentation at 9:30 in the morning. And lastly, some resources here that I find extremely helpful. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business has a good website, lots of FAQs on there in regards to various programs. Can help you sort of wade through some of that information. Small Business BC just launched a new resources page as well. That's quite handy. And then, of course, I just have the federal program overview, and that's the federal government site that leads you to a number of different programs to either assist your business and or your employees. Finally, that's my contact information. If you have any questions, would like to set up a call, I would certainly welcome that opportunity. That's my information there, and look forward to any Q&A that I might have.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Corey. I just got a note from somebody, excuse me, saying that it was a little bit funky the way it displayed, and I think that might be the way we've set up the webinar. So that's great that that PowerPoint will be available to those after, and we will certainly, yeah, share that with everybody on this call. Michael, are you ready to share some of your information as well?
Yes, I am. Just getting there.
Folks, perfect. And then, folks, we'll do the Q&A all together at the end if that works. And similarly, I'm sure we can share some of Michael's information as well after the fact.
Yeah, so in the chat room, you already have my contact details.
Perfect.
And 2 links that Jessica had forwarded. One is the Small Business BC the Small Business BC link that has a dedicated COVID website with a lot of really valuable information. And the other link that was forwarded is to a April 28 Export Navigator seminar, webinar, which is free of charge always. And this one is dedicated to preparing your business for the long run. So post-COVID. Anyway, my name is Michael Hoher. I live in Nelson, have so for the last 15 years. I'm the export advisor for the Kootenay boundary region for Export Navigator. And what Export Navigator is, it's been around for 3.5 years now. It is a provincially and federally funded program that is dedicated to rural BC, and specifically to help small, medium-sized businesses with their business development efforts that focus mostly around outside of the province of BC, and that could be anywhere within Canada, as well as internationally anywhere in the world. At this point in time, with some of the craze going on, Export Navigator is certainly also available to speak to you just on any general business development initiative or strategy or sales or distribution plans that you want to come up with that may start in BC, recognizing that as you start and grow in BC, you will at some point in time also go beyond the provincial borders. My contact information is here. It'll also come at the end of the slide presentation, and you also have it in the chat room. So what is Export Navigator in a nutshell? So what you receive essentially is you're being paired with a community-based export advisor. In this particular case, it would be me. It's one-on-one coaching dedicated to you, where you are, what your situation is, what your opportunities, your challenges are, and whatnot. So it's very much tailor-made to a tailor-made, personalized, step-by-step approach that you get. While there is an export pathway that we have identified that really guides the conversation and the work together, it is not an off-the-shelf situation where I say, okay, you are XYZ and you're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that order. So it's very, very much tailor-made. We do work with an workbook and a variety of different other resources. Export Navigator is phenomenally integrated into all of the provincial as well as federal business assistance programs. Anywhere from the Global Affairs Canada, who runs the Canadian Trade Commissioner Service, to the various ministries in BC that some of them entertain their own Trade Commissioner services, to Export Development Canada, Business Development Bank of Canada, and so forth and so on. And what that leads to is the right connection at the right time to the right person. Which very often people struggle with. Number one, they don't know what's out there that could support them over the next hurdle. They don't know where to go. And even if they find the website, there's a 1-800 number or a chat room or an email address, which makes it very impersonal. And it takes quite some time to get to the person at certain times. So because we are integrated with all these services, we know exactly who you need to talk to at what point in time. There's a ton of content that we make available in form of newsletters, webinars, events. Events are a little bit on ice right now for obvious reasons, but I'll give you an example of some of the events that I had. A good one that comes to mind was last year in November, where I organized a Doing Business in the US event here in Nelson. I'm planning to have one in the fall in the East Kootenays, conditions permitting. And what we had a U.S. tax specialist, both sales tax as well as corporate taxes, a U.S. corporate lawyer, logistics partners, customs brokers, immigration lawyer, corporate lawyer, all in one room here in Nelson, and to speak to an audience, a very large audience that we had, about the ins and outs of going to the US. Given the proximity to the border, obviously the US is a very, very natural trading partner and very familiar to us. The last 2 bullet points of what you can receive or what you will receive is obviously in this situation right now, there's a lot of talk and needed and necessary talk around crisis guidance. How do we get you through the motions and waves of a rocky and choppy water at this point in time? And again, as Corey already alluded to, we all draw from an extensive toolbox to help you. And specifically for me, a ton of focus is around the rebounding of the markets and the resulting opportunities that will come about in very quick order. And I'll have another slide to that extent. In regards to the coverage map for Export Navigator across the province, it is only for rural areas, which is pretty phenomenal given government's tendency to reduce headcount in far-flung areas. So we are in the Kootenay boundary area in the southeast corner, but there's also the Okanagan, the Caribou, and so forth and so on. This program is not available in the Lower Mainland or in the Greater Vancouver area. Much of our COVID-related conversation is oriented by a few tools. This one here, and you have the link down below. It's a fairly extensive piece of work, actually. If you go to their website, Bain & Company, a consulting agency, has a 6-step approach. Now that we're 4 or 5 weeks into the situation, the first point, protect your employees and customers, is pretty much done. There's a lot of modeling and stress testing of the profit and loss statement with a specific focus on the liquidity, defending against revenue declines, stabilizing operations and supply chains to a new normal. That's another really important discussion to have. What is the new normal for your customers? How do consumer behaviors change, or have they changed, and will they stick? Supply chains have been disrupted at best or destroyed in some situations also. So a rebuilding of supply chains may be necessary. Of course, always looking at an eye at the costs, conservation of cash, and then last but not least, playing offense, not defense at this point in time. And the offense is basically what I said before, the focus on business development, on opportunities. With some clients, I have discussions about mergers and acquisitions that they're interested to take at this point in time to widen their asset base, to provide a better footprint in the future. So Canada, we're going to get it out of the water, us as a national brand and individual brands. This is a really important graph to show. This one is taken from the Business Development of Canada site, and you have the link down below. The presentation will be made available to you. So in gray, you see essentially the line which shows the active COVID-19 cases, and in red is the line of business activity, which as the cases rose, the business activity came to a halt, either through government mandated restrictions or just consumers preserving their cash and just removing themselves from the consumer equation. But as we hit the trough, and arguably we are at that point, updating the financial plans, firming up orders, pursuing new opportunities, figuring out the cash flow situation in your enterprise, recalling employees, receiving your shipments, operationalizing the operation, and so forth and so on. That's pretty much it in a graphic, simplified version. All of it obviously will need some increased working capital requirements. Some of it you're applying already. Others you may want to talk to lenders, and that is another function that Export Navigator does. We connect you to a variety of lenders that are specialized in working capital requirements, and that's not in our area. That could be BDC, that could be Columbia Basin Trust, credit unions, commercial banks, and there's a number of other entities that are part of that, EDC also. In terms of issues to navigate, if you look at that dotted line, that's about business as usual in pre-COVID days. The appearance of the virus obviously put us into a skyrocketing situation of so many issues that had never been contemplated on a small, medium-sized enterprise level in terms of mitigation, crisis communications, safety and health-related issues. So that is really what propelled us to up our game within days. But that's not just the only thing. There's another little bit of a wave coming towards us that may be related to a recession situation. We are definitely in a very large, sizable contraction for the first quarter of the year here in Canada. The second quarter even being quite a bit larger than that. And then the whole situation revolving around return to work and the new normal, which I spoke to earlier. Those are very important situations to consider now. I guess the main message that I really want to share with you is don't walk it alone. Like, there are so many formidable support services available free of charge. There's the BBA program, there's Export Navigator, both of those you have heard of today. There's RevUp, also from the trust that I'm also involved in as an entrepreneur in residence. So there's a ton of support here. Don't walk it alone. So in summary, those are the services that you can expect from Export Navigator. And with that, I want to close and open up the room for questions.
That's great. Thanks so much, Corey and Michael. We really appreciate you taking the time, sharing your programs. And so, yeah, we'll go to our question box and we'll see what we have in there. First question's coming in from Jocelyn is to confirm, if I am incorporated and I pay myself as an employee, I cannot apply for the 75% wage subsidy.
Based on the information that was provided last night and made eligible or available last night, no, you wouldn't qualify. For you yourself, now other employees could qualify. There are a number of different programs maybe you could tap into as a result of that. But Jocelyn, I'd say shoot me an email. Let's plan for a 10-minute call. Talk about your specific situation. Make a plan forward from that.
Thanks. Okay, I'll jump into our second one here from Christine. Any idea on payroll subsidy for seasonal businesses? Example, I have closed my seasonal business, which was supposed to open April 1st, therefore have zero income for April. The Government of Canada website states the subsidy would be based on the average payroll for January, February, March. Any thoughts on how I can qualify for the employee payroll subsidy? I did have my staff start April 1st.
So I believe, and I will do a bit more research to confirm and I can get back to you, but I believe there's two different ways you can calculate your revenue drop. You could do it from the period exactly 1 year ago. So you could take April 2019 revenue and compare that to April 2020 revenue. And if it's a drop of 30%, then you would qualify. That's my understanding. We can confirm. There's two different ways to calculate and two different ways in which you could use. So you could use the previous year, the month of the previous year as a baseline, or you could choose January, February this year as your baseline. So there's two different avenues and two different accounting systems that you can utilize and adapt to qualify for the wage subsidy.
Yeah, Christine and Corey, that's my understanding as well, is in your case, with your April revenues from last year, that would be what you would benchmark it on. There are specific dates. It's not, I think the comparison is on the whole month of March versus March, April versus April, but the payroll periods that they kind of rebate you back for are just slightly different. So they cross over months. I think it's March 15th to maybe April 6th or something like that anyway. But that would be the strategy I would take, is look at your April numbers versus 2019 versus April 2020. And that if you're at zero this year and you had any revenue last year, then I think you would qualify under that, guys. And if you get qualified for April, you're automatically qualified for the preceding period, so you would be eligible for May as well, is my understanding.
And if you know, the default that I'm suggesting people do is, if you're not sure and it's not clear, apply. Apply until somebody reviewing your application says you don't qualify. Obviously, there's a list of eligibility criteria, and if you can, you know, you can see that you won't qualify based on that, well, that's one thing. But if you're in that gray area, certainly qualify and wait until you get the red light from somebody else, would be my recommendation.
Sure. And one more thing, Christine, I would take advantage of the 10% right off the bat too. So if you're doing payroll remittances already, that's available. You just simply deduct that from your remittance on the month. And if you then qualify for the 75%, you take that back out of the 75%, or they do perhaps in the calculations. So definitely take advantage of that too if you've got your staff back on the payroll for April. I just wanted to highlight too, because Corey answered a question for Barry in the chats that might be beneficial for others. Barry was asking if we have a child who is a university student and they always work for us through the summer for the past 4 years, can we not apply for the 75% wage subsidy to hire her back when we can show she has been an employee for the last 4 years? And then Corey just suggested to look at the Summer Jobs Grant, which is currently offering 100% coverage on hiring students. And again, that's not, I don't think that's live right now. At least we haven't seen anything at the chamber in terms of being approved for that program. I know we're in the pipeline, but just for the benefit of the group, Corey, I don't know if you wanted to just add a couple of comments to Barry's question there.
I know very little about the program other than it exists and the information that's available right now. Again, I think this is one of those that the announcement was weighed and now the work behind the scenes is happening to see how it actually plays out in real time, in real life. Certainly something to be aware of and stay on top of. I think in general, for anybody who think you might qualify for some of these programs that are still somewhat vague, it's important, go in, bookmark them, you know, look at them every morning while you're having your coffee, seeing if there's any updates, because things are changing daily right now. So, you know, it's best to make decisions today based on the information, best information you have at the time. So certainly if you feel like you qualify for that, stay on top of that and wait for some more information to roll out, I guess.
Thanks so much. So we have a question about loans here. I just bought a motel in November last year in Radium. I do not qualify for the $40,000 loan. What else can I do? And I guess where else can businesses look for financial support at this time?
So I know lenders like Community Futures of East Kootenay, for example, would prefer to have 2 years of financials. But that being said, they do have some flexibility. I was just on a call yesterday with the general manager, and he simply stated, look, if you don't have 2 years of financials, but you bought an existing business that has some history, we could take that into consideration. I think there's certainly some flexibility within that on the local level. So I'd encourage you to contact them and you know, open up that dialogue, because the eligibility criteria for lenders like that are they're not as strict and stringent.
Yeah, there's also support through the Columbia Basin Trust right now as well, and business finance loans there. So there are some additional areas and additional really region-specific loan opportunities that are available for businesses as well. So go back into wage subsidies. So a couple of questions. Are both the 10% and 75% wage subsidies not available to owners of a business that take a wage, or can they use the 10% subsidy? And then I guess as well as, can you clarify immediate family since they don't qualify. So I guess there's a lot of questions just about small business owners and being able to qualify for the wage subsidies depending on their structures and whether they themselves are or family members are employees.
Yeah, and the short answer is it depends, unfortunately. And I certainly am not an employee of the federal government, nor do I pretend to be. So take my word for what it is in that respect. I don't represent the government. I'm not the final say on that. The 10% wage subsidy, I believe you would qualify for. Again, the devil's in the details there. I would encourage you to apply for that. The wording that came out last night from on the 75% was very clear now that if you are a family member, and again, we'd have to look at what immediate family member is. I suspect it's mother, child, mother, father, child, things of that nature.
Great, thank you. Now, when I just saw your question around not being qualified or not qualifying because you've been in low season since November 2019. If that's in regards to the wage subsidy, and I believe if you purchased an existing business, there would be a case to be made if there's history with sales from that business. Now, I'm not sure how accessible that is to you, if that was part of the sale process or not, or if there's point of sale record keeping or anything like that. But yeah, I think, again, maybe the local programs would be good to start with in terms of CBT and community futures, because you just have a better opportunity to speak to your specific example with those folks. They, being localized, they probably have a different lens for it. And especially if it's been a business that you just purchased and that business has been in the Valley for some time, then you've got some credibility there, I would say. I would just like to ask maybe both of you, Michael and Corey, maybe Michael, you could take a run at the first one. Just curious what kind of success stories, you may not be able to share names of businesses, but some of the folks that you've worked with in the Valley, and maybe just to paint a picture for some success stories that you've been part of from concepts or from businesses within our region.
So glad you asked that question. Yeah, no, roughly about 15 to 20 companies I've worked with from the East Kootenay so far, and all phenomenal businesses. It's just beautiful to see the hidden gems that we all have in our region here. Over the last little while, there were a number of success stories, 5 of companies that pivoted a little bit in their product categories, more towards the COVID-19 emergency supply call for action that the Canadian government as well as the provincial government had. And that would range from hand sanitizers to masks to face shields to neck braces, those kind of products. So anybody who has never had any dealings with the healthcare industry, the first wall that they run into is the wall of testing, certifications, Health Canada's heavy thumb on the process. And typically that process would take a lengthy time, 1+ years minimum. This whole crisis situation really brought with it an enormous acceleration of approval processes that are completely out of the norm and unheard of ever. So some of the companies have pivoted their workforce towards those kind of items, but the process is still tricky. And it has a bunch of landmines in it that you just cannot ignore. You got to diffuse them. So there is a process that we are able to guide companies in Export Navigator through that they need to take. So that's one. The other one is also, if you look around, one of the sectors that has seen a tremendous upswing are the grocery stores, the agri-food industries. And that is to say that while there's fewer clients running through the grocery store at any given time because of limitations to the numbers, the average check that is being dropped at the grocery store for each one of those visits has gone by a factor anywhere from 2 to 4, depending as to who you talk to. What that brings with itself is challenges with the supply chain, meaning restocking the shelves at the grocery store level for all of us. And some agri-food companies have seen a tremendous uptick in sales. Now, interestingly enough, there were a few of my clients much more successful than others, and those were the ones that recognized the opportunity and did something about it. Give you an example. There's a company in the Kootenays that, well, for anonymous reasons, whatever, it's a beverage company. So immediately as the crisis unfolded, March 13th, roughly, plus minus a few days, they drove with their sales team to Vancouver and knocked on everybody's door that they deemed a suitable client. They got about 250 new accounts out of those 3-4 days of sales calls on the ground in Vancouver, either immediately or within the next 2 weeks when shelves started to be empty. So those are the tremendous foresight that I start seeing in agile and entrepreneurs that understand the power of capitalizing on situations that are outside of the norm. So that would be some. In Invamere specifically, I've dealt with, I think, 4 companies so far, varying sectors, varying product lines, but all of them well-spirited, really go-getters, and some phenomenal success stories.
That's wonderful. So great to hear. Corey, did you want to share any follow-up comments to success stories and things that you've worked with where people have had success from your program?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I actually have one today. I have a client, it's been a long-standing client. They are a manufacturer, producer, and they are currently in the process of adapting their manufacturing process to produce medical supplies. So they've got an opportunity. They have a letter of intent signed from a purchaser for so many, for a certain quantity, and they're in the process right now of drafting up a business plan as well as financial projections and moving forward with purchase of some capital machinery to adapt their current operations and seize this opportunity. Again, without going into any proprietary information, I know that's big, but just one of the story of the business pivot, if you were, right? Here's a company that has the space, has many of those processes already in place, and now it's just a matter of adapting and changing, filling the void that they see. So there are some good news stories out there. There is, like as Michael alluded to, the entrepreneurs who are identifying these opportunities and seizing them, and certainly willing to have those conversations with anybody about how you see some of those opportunities. And again, we've got a number of resources at our disposal, so I'd encourage you to reach out to whatever one you feel is appropriate.
Great, thank you.
And I guess following up to that, do you guys, what are some of the, opportunities that you foresee coming out of COVID-19, or ways that businesses could position themselves for these opportunities, or to be ready to be open? Kind of what are the big key pieces of advice that you'd want to give businesses right now?
Yeah, so to start with, I think the number one fun thing to do really is, as a business, to let's say all the financials are in place, the business is secure, the individuals are secure, the employees, they know where they are, either temporary layoffs but supported through government entities and all that kind of stuff. So for me, there's really 3 things. One is the whole situation back to work. What does that look like, right? Recalling all the employees, being aware of the 13-week maximum time period of temp layoffs, and the potential obligations that people that are not recalled by that moment, the financial obligations that the employer has towards those employees, which would then be deemed laid off permanently. So that's one. But the new normal, that's for me a fascinating situation. Honestly, I can't hide behind it. Every industry is seeing monumental shifts in consumer behaviors, and my urgent recommendation really would be observe. Talk to your peers in the same industry as well as related or other industries. Talk to them, connect with them, and say, hey, listen, did you observe that? This is weird kind of thing, right? Have these conversations and understand as to how consumer behaviors go and change and switch and where the dollar flow goes to. An example, a client of mine in the Columbia Valley has just really put everything behind e-commerce right now over the last few weeks in particular. Like the strategy was in place for a little bit longer to go and boost the e-commerce section of it. But as the switches turn on, like phenomenal returns in terms of an uptick in e-commerce opportunity there. And I bet you, like, as I think in 2019, the overall online purchase was about 7% of the overall Canadian total tally of purchases. The opinion is that this one has definitely doubled, if not higher, and it will stay. People for the foreseeable future are intimidated to go to stores, be subject to infections or whatever, whether it's perceived or real. It is real to them. It is real to every one of us, right? So those consumer behaviors have changed. How are you going to position yourself to capitalize on those opportunities and not just go back to the store, open the door, and suddenly notice, oh my God, nobody's showing up. So those new normals, the new business opportunities, new markets, that's where the fun is.
I echo Michael's comments. That's exactly it. This is where, from the entrepreneur business perspective, this is where people get to, this is, for lack of a better term, fun in the sense of now we get to identify opportunities. We have those conversations. Certainly businesses in the Columbia Valley, what not only is COVID-19 providing challenges, but oil prices and the impact that that's having on the macro environment as well certainly will have an impact on a lot of businesses that cater to that type of clientele. So, again, what does that mean? I wish I had a crystal ball and said, here's where all the opportunities are. But as Michael said, I'd encourage you to have those conversations with your colleagues or with people within your network. Start thinking about what that new norm is. I know it's as simple as, my wife had some t-shirts made for our boys who had birthdays last week. And they did a screen printing drop off in a little drop box. She e-transferred the money and then was told when it was ready and went to the pickup drop box with her name on it. It all happened without any contact whatsoever between the two parties. That's just, a small example of a retail shop adjusting and working from home. So there are some great news stories out there, and it's just adapting to the new normal, as it were.
Awesome, thanks. That's really great to share with all our participants today.
Great, and we're pretty much at wrap-up time here, folks. I just wanted to highlight, Gary had mentioned in the question and answer, I think it was more just a clarification. I believe that an owner will qualify for the CEWS as long as the shareholder owner paid themselves a salary during the period of January 1st to March 15th, 2020. Dividends and shareholder draws do not qualify, must be a salary that CPP and tax was withheld and remitted to the CRA. Yeah, I think you've nailed that there, Gary, and thanks for sharing those comments. I'm not sure what your background is, but that's great. But with that, folks, thank you so much for making the time today. We really appreciate having our guests, Corey from the BBA program and Michael from the Export Navigator. We will certainly share those slides and that information with all the registered attendees after this. And we hope that there's lots of great inspirational ideas and new things that pop up from that. Jess, is there anything on your side you wanted to wrap up with as well?
No, just really want to say thank you to our guests. It's really incredible to have resources and programs such as both yours in our region. We're really fortunate, and our business community is incredibly fortunate. So thanks for that. And also just a little plug from kind of our behind the scenes team. Let us know other guest speakers or presentations or ideas you'd like us to bring into these roundtables. Pete and I are here to support you, our business community, and our greater community. So let us know who else we can bring in and what topics you guys would like to see in roundtables going forward as well. So you'll see that in the newsletter that's coming out today. So feel free to respond and let the team know what you're interested in.
Yeah, great point, Jess. Thanks for bringing that up. Please do let us know your thoughts, feedback, people you want to hear from, programs you want to hear from. We will certainly, yes, we'll certainly do our best to line those up. It may be outside of the regular Wednesday. You know, we might do an extra one in a week or an extra couple in a week, but please do let us know. And with that, I see just a couple of thank yous in the question and answer box. I think we'll call the meeting to a close. Thank you again, Michael and Corey. And I know we'll be in touch in the coming weeks. And we'll look forward to seeing you and talking to you then. Thanks again, Chris.
Thanks for
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and good luck to everyone out there. Get in touch. Don't walk it alone.
Yes.
Thanks,
Great.
everyone.
Okay, thanks, Corey. Thanks, Michael.
Okay, bye.
Jessica, take care.